Welcome. We are live in Dedham, Massachusetts, the site of the Karen Reed retrial of the century. It's a case that has literally taken on a life of its own. So many people have such strong, passionate opinions about the case. Some people around the country, some people overseas, and a whole bunch of people here in Massachusetts. And we have a live studio audience full of opinions, and we're going to hear from them a little bit later this hour. But for those of you who aren't familiar with this case, I don't know how you could not be familiar with the case, take a look. The death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe remains clouded in uncertainty and disturbing silence. After a night out with friends, he was allegedly dropped off outside 34 Fairview Road. Yet, what happened next remains a haunting mystery. No one saw him enter the house. No one at the party recalled seeing him. Even more unsettling, no one reported seeing his body lying in the front yard throughout the night, despite claims he had been struck and left there. The snow fell heavily and still no tracks, no footprints, no cries for help. By morning, he was found bruised, bloodied, and lifeless. The eerie absence of witnesses and the strange quiet surrounding his death has split public opinion. Was it an accident, a tragic mistake, or something far more sinister hidden behind the walls of 34 Fairview? As the case unfolds in court, the mystery lingers. How could a man die so violently and no one saw a thing? I've never covered a case with so many witnesses who didn't see anything. To me, it's mind-boggling, because when you go to 34 Fairview, you see the house, you see the size of the house, but you see how small the front yard really is. Sometimes on television it plays like it's a little bit larger. It's not. But no one saw the accident. No one saw the body in the snow. No one saw an alleged murder inside. So you have more than a dozen people that are in and out of the house, and no one sees anything, including the owner of the home. Here's Brian Albert.
Were you ever even aware that John O'Keefe or the defendant were anywhere in the area of your house during that early morning of January 29th?
I was not.
Now, the thing about 34 Fairview that is interesting, and this is a big part of the defense case, is that police never went inside that morning. And the people inside never came outside, which is strange. There's a dead police officer on the front lawn. There's a police officer who owns the home that the lawn is connected to. He never comes out, and the police never go in. It's not part of the investigation. Well, it's going to be part of our investigation here tonight, this hour. So we found a house, not 34 Fairview, but a house that is very, very similar. Take a look. So this is the house that is very similar to 34 Fairview. The difference is it's inverted. So what's on the left is on the right, what's on the right is on the left. To give you some perspective of this house, I am where the flagpole would be, but I'm on the opposite side. So if you flip it around, it's then on the same side as 34 Fairview. Now, let's take a look, because I'll show you the picture again so you can see the similarities between the homes on the outside, and there are similarities inside as well. Take a look first of, I'm calling this really the replica house, right? It's a house in the Boston area. We're not going to tell you the homeowner, but take a look at that. Now I want to invert it and then put it next to 34 Fairview so you can see the similarities. Again, everything is inverted. So on the one house, you have sort of that side door is to the left, and now it's to the right when you invert the replica home. So this is, to me, is fascinating, because we're never going to have an opportunity to go into 34 Fairview. The jury didn't go inside 34 Fairview. But what we want to do is investigate it in a sense of trying to get an idea of what it's like inside the house when there are things happening outside the house. So that brings us to the first question in our investigation. Because as I mentioned, nobody in the house came out because they didn't hear anything. Well, why didn't the Alberts hear anything that morning? All the responders that came to the home. So, joining me to help us figure all of this out tonight, our special guests. I am joined by attorney, former prosecutor Catherine Loftus. Also with us, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, and John DePietro, host and creator of Road Patrol Live. Now, Cody and I had a little extra time, so we went over to this replica home, and what we did is we wanted to see what you could hear from inside the house when things are happening outside the house. So I was outside, and where were you?
I was inside with the homeowner.
Where?
Upstairs in the bedroom where the Alberts would have been.
Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, I'm outside the house. Cody and the homeowner are inside. I'm going to make a series of noises from outside the home and see if they can hear it inside the home. I'll begin by honking the horn.
Did you hear anything?
I heard nothing.
I didn't hear anything either.
No. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you heard that?
I heard that.
What'd that sound like?
Car horn to me.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, the second noise I'm going to make is just revving the engine.
Did you hear anything just now?
No.
You didn't hear any sound at all?
No.
Gotcha. I think I might have heard a car rev or something.
The third noise I'm going to make is just screaming on the front lawn here. Ah! Ah!
To think that.
Did you hear anything just now? As we were standing here?
No, I see Vinnie. That's about it.
Yeah. I think I might have heard some talking or a yell or some sort.
The final noise I'm going to make is just talking. Okay, so is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? What's going on here? What happened? Where are you? Can you hear me inside?
So what'd you hear that time?
That was definitely somebody talking outside.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not like quite a yell, but
Right.
just a regular old
regular
voice.
talking.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting, Cody, is the microphones you had on didn't pick it up, but your ears did. But you
Right.
heard, but she didn't on a couple of them.
Right, Vinny. So for me, it kind of put everything in perspective, because as you were saying just a few seconds ago, we'll never get to go inside 34 Fairview. But this replica put things in perspective for me, obviously put things in perspective for her, because it's interesting, because I kind of had an idea of what I was listening for, but she was totally in the blind. So it was interesting to me that she got two of them right, or missed two of them in the middle. So again, I kind of knew what was going on. I knew the car was revving, I knew it was coming, but the fact that she didn't hear anything, we were in there quiet, just as they would have been early in that morning.
Yeah, and this is an important issue, Matt, right? I mean, the defense made a big deal about no one coming out of the house, no one waking up, the dog not alerting.
And then also the prosecution has counterpointed with no one else in the neighborhood has come out either whenever they make that point. But regardless, for the scientific purpose of this investigation, these are people that were drinking heavily, by all accounts, and they were sound asleep. So, I mean, this homeowner was actually knew that she was listening for something.
Correct.
I think it's also important to note, too, here in Massachusetts, in January at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, it's pitch black out, it's cold, it's snowing. As we saw, I think probably the most realistic, interpretation of what was happening that night is the Ring video from 5 or so a.m. when Karen's leaving Meadows, because you see the snow whipping around. And most of us who live here know, that causes a lot of noise. And the fact that it's a sunny day when you guys went, some of the stuff you heard, some of it you didn't, I think it's...
So what's making the noise? The snow's not making the noise.
It's the wind with the snow. It's sort of whipping, and it's everybody's, like Matt said, they've been drinking heavily, so if you're going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 hours later, you might be well under your covers and, not listening.
The other thing I would wonder about is, I put myself through school in construction. Didn't know that, did you?
Did not know at all.
So I worked in a home improvement store, so I'm wondering the pain and the thickness of the windows. No?
I'm picturing you with the tool belt right now.
Jack of all trades, is he not? Yeah, you did everything.
So why didn't the Alberts hear anything? Why didn't Chloe hear anything? Why did they sleep through this whole thing?
I think there's two different factors. First of all, when the incident allegedly happened, You have music playing, cars are going in and out. But if you think of when there's a storm, and granted in Massachusetts, there's no sirens. So keep in mind, the police, first responders, no sirens, just lights. But if you're in a dead sleep and there's snow and there's plows outside and you hear, you don't know if it's a plow. Sometimes the plows have lights. There's different types of noise. And I think Matt is right. When you're asleep, you may wake up when you hear something, but you're not fully conscious of what you may have heard. So I believe them when they say that because of it's pitch black, howling wind, and you had to stand next to someone to hear them, plus the element of, I would roll over and say it must just be a plow and go back to sleep.
Unless your dog is starting to bark.
Right.
Well, you see red and blue lights coming through the window.
True, but the dog did not bark. The dog, Chloe, was aggressive towards other dogs, but not people. There's no evidence. Jen McCabe said he didn't bark when she came into the house.
All right, we got a lot more to get to in our investigation tonight. Coming up, what can you see from inside the house? We are live in Dedham, Massachusetts with our live studio audience. We'll be right back.
I noticed the big SUV parked in front of the house.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed!
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand.
Her first trial ended with a hung jury. They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict? We know who did it.
The Karen Reed Murder Retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
I did notice behind Sarah and Jen, I did notice something out of the ordinary, like a black blob in the ground by the flagpole.
Can you describe how big an object it was that you saw?
I'd probably say like 5 or 6 feet.
We are back live in Dedham, Massachusetts, and our coverage of the Karen Reed retrial of the century. That was Julie Nagel in last year's trial, and that was huge testimony because she's the only one who saw something near the flagpole. She described it as a black blob, and that was the first time she had ever talked about seeing something that night. Now, she hasn't testified in this year's trial, but it's interesting. She was in a car and drove by and saw that. Now, there were people inside 34 Fairview who, amazingly, like a lot of people were going up to the windows, peeking through, and were seeing things happen outside. Take a listen.
I can see the SUV, correct?
Correct. And you could see everything in front of the SUV as well, couldn't you?
I just would go to the door and look at the SUV. I wasn't taking in all the surroundings of...
Right.
I noticed the big SUV parked in front of the house. I definitely looked out a third time out the door. It had now proceeded further up the road, past the flagpole, past the utility box, past the fire hydrant.
I was inside at the dining room table, looking out the window. So when I noticed looking out the window, I did notice the SUV in front of the mailbox. And then pulled up a little bit in front of the yard, and then stopped, and then pulled up again towards the flagpole.
And again, this was shocking to me in the first trial. Everyone's like peeking out the windows. They're looking out, going up to the front door. But no one saw the alleged accident, the alleged murder by Karen Reed, and no one saw John O'Keefe on that front yard. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation, and it's about 34 Fairview. And it is, what can you see from inside the house? So once again, me and Cody, or Cody and I, all right, I want to get that right. We're in the house, and this time I'm outside. Where are you?
I'm inside in 3 different locations, Vinny. I'm in the kitchen, I'm in the dining room, and then at the front door. Trying to give people a POV of what they could have seen from either of these locations. All right, so let's roll this. I'm, again, probably embarrassing myself on the front yard, but Cody's inside describing what he sees. Let's take a look.
Okay, Cody, I'm about 30 feet from the house, which is where the street would be. Where are you inside the house?
I am currently now in the kitchen, Vinny.
All right. Tell me when you see something and what you see.
I see you walking by through the front door. I'm looking right out the front door right now. I saw you come by walking to my right.
Okay. Did you notice anything else about me walking? Nothing else.
Nothing else, that you were just walking.
Figure walking there.
Just walking by.
I'm gonna do it one more time. Tell me again what you see.
I see you walking by with your hand up.
Okay, so that's a pretty clear picture. And you're looking where? Through the front door?
Through the front door from the kitchen, yes.
All right, from the kitchen, can you see through any of the windows? If that door was closed, do you see anything through any of the windows?
No. All I have right now is a vision of the front door. There you go, walking back again with your hand up, but that's all I see. No other windows through this vantage point.
All right, Cody, if you could, why don't you go from the kitchen to the dining room, because there were people in the dining room as well. That's where the party seemed to be flowing. Everyone on that first floor, kitchen, dining room, kitchen. And you can casually peek out through those windows and tell me if you see anything and describe it, whatever you see.
Right, so I'm looking. There's 2 windows in this dining room right now. The sun's kind of shining through. I see you walking through the second window. I can see your feet walking through. But of course, the blinds are a little bit down. But yes, I could see you walking through on that right window. Right now, I'm seeing nothing. And then I see you coming through on the left window.
Anything else more specific about what you're seeing?
No, just you walking by, see your legs walking by. That's about it.
Okay. Why don't you take a stroll up to the windows and take a peek out and tell me what you see?
Moving to the windows right now. Now I see you walking by fully as I'm looking out the windows. Now that I'm close up, I see your hand on your head, walking through the yard back and forth. So I can see you in full clear view at this point.
Yeah, and that's the testimony that we heard, that some people were walking up, taking a peek out. Some people were peeking out the front door. If you look out the front door, you probably get your best view of everything at that point, correct?
Absolutely. Moving to the front door now. And now I can see everything. I can see the full yard. I see you holding your hand out in front of you, and I see everything. The street, the houses across the street, everything.
And I can see you, by the way. I can also see you in that. So, all right. So the kitchen. So give me a summary of what you saw from the kitchen, the dining room, and the front door.
So from the kitchen, I had a vantage point of the front door, but of course I was farther back away from the front door. So all I could see was when you walked through that little window of you walking through just for a few seconds. Now to move through the dining room, there was 2 windows separated by a piece of wall in the middle. And all I could see was when you crossed in front of the window to my left, then you went out of view, then you crossed in front of the window to my right. But when I moved closer up toward the window and had an actual peek out, I can see you pretty much clear as day. And of course, when I got close up here to the front door where I'm still standing, I could see you and everything else all around you, the full yard and the whole road and street and the houses across the street and everything.
And I can see you. Now, I was walking in that particular area because that's where the road would be at 34 Fairview. That front yard was more than twice as long as 34 Fairview. So why didn't anyone see anything? From inside looking out? Like, it seems like, you know, if you're peeking out there, you're going to see something, but no one saw anything.
I think it's nighttime. I think they're preoccupied with what's going on in the house, plus the heavy drinking. Maybe people aren't sure who's coming, who's going.
But let me ask you this. Jen McCabe, didn't she testify, Matt, that she saw tracks in the light snow in the street?
Yeah, she saw like a 3-point turn type tracks as the dusting was coming down. She could see that, but she couldn't see anything in the yard.
Right.
You know, I think it's difficult in hindsight to look back and say, what could we look? Because as you see from the front door, you can see everything. Does that mean that when you're looking out, you're always going to see every single thing that's on the lawn? Probably not. And when we look now and say, okay, right, when you look out the front door, you look out the dining room window, of course you can see where the flagpole was. But, you know, as John said, at this point, they're back at the house after an entire night of drinking. I think most understand, you know, there's probably a fair level of intoxication. Everyone's kind of partying, drinking. Are they paying really that close of attention?
But are you bothered by the fact that so many people were going up to the window? Like, when you went up to the window and you looked out, like, you can see
Right, you got to take it in context. I was thinking about that as we were doing the experiment, Benny, because obviously I was laser focused for the sake of what we were filming. But going up to the window could simply be, oh, Benny, let me see if so-and-so has arrived, take a little peek and come back. And as to Catherine's point, if we're sitting having a conversation and then I look off real quick, that doesn't mean I was looking out the front door. You know what I mean? Right. So preoccupation.
That's true, but you know, going back to Vinny's original point of with your guys' experiment, where he's walking, it's a very small yard actually for a very big house. It really is.
Well, you know, it's funny because everybody always qualifies it as a small yard. As a city kid myself, it feels pretty big when I look at it. And you know, it's again, this is one of these things that the jury, as a trier of fact, is going to look at and say, is it reasonable that all of these people didn't? Are we going to take into the factors like the weather?
That's where the SUV would be. It would be there, and John O'Keefe's body would be even closer.
But Vinny, you know what else is? There were other people coming and going, so it's not like you're just waiting for one vehicle to arrive. You know, Ryan Nagel's pulling up. There could be other people going up and down the street. I think it'd be much different if we were all just waiting for one vehicle to arrive.
And other vehicles are parked there. There's a lot of people there, so maybe that's blocking some sort of view. I don't know.
But Jen McCabe did see
She says the tire tracks.
She did see that, but she also saw the SUV then moving into different locations.
Yeah. And I understand why they didn't hear the accident, because they're playing, what, It's Raining Men, right? They had that kind of on the loop the whole night. Okay,
great song.
Stay with us. We've got more to get to. We are live in Dedham. Up next, could John O'Keefe enter the house without being seen? We are live in Dedham, Massachusetts, the site of the Karen Reed retrial of the century. And the subject of our investigation is what's going on in that trial. It's about the death of John O'Keefe, and it's about everything that was happening at 34 Fairview. As I mentioned, we're live here in Dedham. We have a live studio audience. You will hear from them momentarily with their questions, comments, and insight into this case. Because unlike any other trial I've covered in a couple of decades at Court TV, the public knows everything about this case. Not just what's happening in the courtroom, but everything else connected to everyone else who is part of the case, whether they're a witness, one of the lawyers, one of the dogs. They know everything. So it's always interesting to hear what they have to say. Right now, I want to focus in on an important issue here. And one of the definitive issues in this case is, did he or did he not go in the house, John O'Keefe? Here's what Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert had to say about that.
I saw a dark SUV out front.
Did you know whose SUV that was?
I believed it was Karen's.
Could you see who was in it?
No, I was expecting John and Karen to come into the house.
Did they ever make it in the house?
No, they did not.
John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in, and I wish they had. I really do.
Okay, so at the first trial, no one testified that they saw John O'Keefe go into that house. In interviews, Karen Reed has said that she saw him walk up to the house, but she didn't testify, so it wasn't evidence in front of the jury. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. And this is an important one for the defense. Could John O'Keefe enter the house without being seen? And when I say without being seen by perhaps Brian Albert Jr., some of his friends, and some of the other guests who were in that house. Still with me to help answer this question, Catherine Loftus, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, and John DePietro. Okay, so Cody and I once again up to
another field trip.
So we're at what we're calling the replica house. It's a house that's similar, not exactly the same. Some things are inverted, some things are slightly different, and we'll point it all out. But now we go inside the house. And to me, this was also eye-opening because the question is, can you get into that house and into the basement without being seen?
Absolutely, Vinny. So we took that full walk through, we went down through the basement, we saw the nooks and crannies, and even came out in the backyard through the bulkhead. So
The bulkhead. I always forget what they call it here. It's the bulkhead in the back, up those steps. So let's do this. So let's take you inside. Again, this is a replica house. Some things are inverted, some things are a little different, but we'll show you what it's like as we try to answer that question. Could John O'Keefe walk into that house without being seen? So what we're going to do right now is try to retrace John O'Keefe's steps according to the defense and figure out, is there a way to be outside 34 Fairview, go through the front door and get into the basement without anyone seeing you? So this house has a similar layout, but a lot of it is inverted, including some of the things on the inside. So let's walk inside. Now, the first thing that is different here, Cody, is I believe in 34 Fairview, the way it's been described, is that the basement entrance would be here and the stairs would be on the other side, which is a big difference. Because as I'm standing here, what do you see when you walk in? Because there were people in the kitchen and dining room.
Yeah, you see the dining room here, you see the kitchen right here. If the basement door was in this position, I would imagine the door would swing open this way, so you could have easily walked in and went straight to the basement, and whoever was in here couldn't even see you walking in.
Right. So again, if this is the inverse, where if the stairs are on the other side and the entrance to the basement is here, you could walk through that front door. People in the kitchen might see you. Dining room, less likely. Open the door, and then you're heading down the basement. So let's do this. There is a basement here. It's just on the other side, so you have to walk through the kitchen. So let's go through this way. Now, the other thing that we're doing while we do all this, we're recording your Apple Health, right?
Absolutely.
We'll see if it records.
Steps, flights, climb, and all that, elevation and everything.
All right, so now we're going down into the basement. More steps. Ironically, it seems like they've redone the floors here as well. But the big thing about the basement was, well, how do you get out of the basement? And they were talking about this basement bulkhead.
The bulkhead door to the backyard, yeah.
All right, so let's take a look. Because I told you this house is similar. And yes, if you come through this room, we've got the same steps.
Same bulkhead door right here.
Heading outside. So let's head outside. And instead of turning, we're going to turn to our right because everything's inverted in this house. Instead of turning to the left, we're going to turn to the right.
Right here.
And it looks like they may have an additional room that they put on this home that we didn't see at 34 Fairview, but they've also got the fence that takes you out to the front yard. And what's interesting is, if you walk straight here, I've marked a spot where the flagpole would be. And if we walk straight out, just like Alan Jackson and the defense team did in their video, you end up right where the flagpole is. So, Cody, what's your bottom line? I mean, if the basement door's in the front, do you think John O'Keefe could get into that home and all the people that were drinking and partying would not see him?
You know, it's interesting because, again, you have that possibility of that dining room door being closed off, but then you have all the people in the kitchen. So there may be a slim chance that he could just walk in real quick, go through, but I think somebody, at least one, maybe two people would have had to see him to come all the way, go down into the basement, come out, and then make it ultimately where he ended up getting found. Somebody had to have seen him on that process.
In that process, and the question is, if someone saw him, are they saying that they saw him, or are they not saying what they actually saw? I think that's part of what
the big question.
That's what the defense will argue. And you know, when he was brought out here, that's another question. When was John O'Keefe, according to the defense again, because we're looking at the defense theory, when was he placed on the front yard? And that's not crystal clear as well. But it's the same thing. Out the bulkhead certainly could be done. Now, let's check your Apple Health.
Yeah, let's bring that out.
Did it record steps? I don't know if we can see this in the
sun. See what we got going on here.
What do you got going on with your Apple Health here?
We got the Health app. We got to come down, show all health data. We're at 1427 steps. Now, of course, I've been walking a little bit this morning,
Let's go to the flights climbed. Flights
climbed. It's at 4. We go to show all health data. May 13th, which is today's date, and you see it by the times, 12:16 p.m., 12:10 p.m. Of course, that was earlier, 10:36 a.m. this morning, but so we've been here.
Did it record what we just did? What's the latest?
The latest is 12:16, so it did not, actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes a while to populate. We'll keep an eye on it.
Absolutely.
But here we are. Again, this house, very similar to 34 Fairview. All right, what I want to do right now is show everyone the floor plan from 34 Fairview, because it really clarifies walking into the home. The stairs are actually in the same place as they were, but the entrance to the basement is not in the front, but is on the side, just before you get to the kitchen. If you look in the part that's highlighted right in the middle, and that door opens in the direction where it would block the view of the kitchen. So if the basement door is open when you go through the front door, the only people who would see you would be people potentially on the left-hand side in that dining room. The people from the kitchen would not necessarily see you because that door swings open and would block the view. We thought it would block the dining room.
Right.
It actually would block the kitchen where more people were, so you could get down there. Now, there are actually more steps at this house, which is significant, right? Because you have to go down, it's L-shaped, so you go down to a landing, and then you go all the way down to the basement. So there'll be more steps at 34 Fairview than the house we were at, which is significant when it comes to Apple Health.
Yeah, and it was interesting because if you look at the Apple Health data, when it goes talking about flights climbed, there's a very specific parameter. So given the amount of steps that we took, clearly it didn't record anything.
It didn't register. But more on those steps tomorrow, because we were up to something today. So we'll get into the Apple Health tomorrow night. But could he enter without being seen? What do you think?
You know, I think in a theoretical world, sure, if he walked in quietly, really fast and snuck down, yes. The allegations that he was attacked literally the moment he walked in the house, you know, with that many people, I think it's pretty unlikely. You know, I don't know any fights that are quiet. So even if, you know, he made it to the top of the basement stairs, you have Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, you know, attacking him and dragging him downstairs. It seems pretty unlikely to me.
It would have to be really calculated and planned. That was really helpful to you guys of seeing it. You'd also just get a sense of going and approaching like that. As I see it like that, you know, people aren't paying attention. He's alone. He's not with Karen Reed. So one individual, possible, two, no. But just based on seeing that and the demonstration you did, you could see in a house like that, depending on where people were, someone could either enter or leave without the entire group noticing.
Yeah. Does the defense, have they been specific in court yet? They really haven't about...
Remember, Brian Higgins, who has not testified yet, testified last year that there was a dark-haired man that he saw at some point.
And we don't know the identity of that person.
Could be Colin Albert.
Right, could be Colin Albert, could be... So, you know, being in that house, Cody, and you know, it's a party. People are drinking. So it cuts both ways, right? So if people are drinking, partying, distracted, and they don't see the accident, and they don't see a body in the front yard, by that same logic, you might not see someone who enters quickly, and you would go right down that hallway and directly to the left down into the basement. You might not see someone. So on this issue, I'm kind of like, I'm with John. I think it's possible.
I was thinking, especially walking in with one person. Like if you came in kind of quiet, you already had a beer in your hand or whatever you had going on, you just cut down in there. You could be in and out.
And Brian Higgins said he pulled an Irish goodbye, which is you just slide out of the party without saying goodbye to everyone. So maybe it's possible Catherine would know an Irish arrival that you also slide in and no one knows.
I love those.
Yeah, that's the best way to exit a party. You just go. You just go. The jury never got inside the house. I would have liked the jury to be in the house, but because it's not part of the prosecution theory, they don't go there. Does the defense ever get to choose where a view can be in Massachusetts?
Generally, I mean, this is a private home, so obviously they're able to see the outside. You know, you could, I suppose, theoretically ask, but I don't know that the court has the
jurisdiction to be able to do that.
Intervene to order the homeowners to provide access to the house.
Interesting. Maybe they give them a break on their taxes and then they let them in.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this because we've got a live studio audience tonight. They've got a lot of questions, so we're going to save a little extra time for them. When we come back, you will hear from our audience. What theories do they have? We are live in Dedham, Massachusetts.
As Sean Diddy Combs faces a federal jury, Court TV's Kelly Craft is live from New York
It was an emotional day in court.
with every development. The Diddy sex trafficking trial. Live updates on Court TV.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan. Weeknights at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Okay, so what we're getting ready to do right now is I'm going to lay on the ground right here near where I've marked where the flagpole is, approximately in relation to the house. I'm going to lie down here. Cody's going to be wearing the glasses that record video, so we're going to go to the Cody cam as he walks out of the house like people were exiting the party that night, and we will see what he sees. And he'll exit from the front door. He'll also exit from the side door. Let's take a look.
So what I'm doing right now is walking out of the house just naturally as anyone would at 34 Fairview would have walked out that night. This is the front door. So I took a ride walking down this sidewalk, headed towards the driveway. Of course, it was snowing a lot that night. It was practically a blizzard. But just again, walking towards the driveway as anyone naturally would have, walking out that front door at the house that night when John O'Keefe's body was found. And now I'm here in the driveway, walking about halfway up. You have the yard, you have the full scape of the neighborhood and the road. So this is what someone would have seen that night as they were walking out. So now I'm coming out the side door entrance of the home, not quite the front door, but still at the front of the house. I'm walking out, I'm seeing, the yard, I'm taking the same route naturally as anyone again would have walked out of that house at 34 Fairview that night during that slight snowstorm. We're here back in the driveway, a quicker walk to the driveway. Again, taking the same little stroll up the driveway. Here's the yard, here's the street, neighbors' homes, the full scape, the lay of the land of what someone would have seen coming out that side door that night.
There we go, folks. Got to get them going. All right. So it's time to hear from our great audience members. Questions, comments, theories. Step up, come on up. What's your name?
Carissa.
All right. Question, comment, theory?
So I have a question for Catherine, because she's the only woman up there. If you came across that scene and you saw that John was dead on the lawn, wouldn't your first instinct be to go check on your sister, your family, your loved ones, your nephew, your niece? I just can't understand how. I think for me, that would be the first thing I would do. I would bust through those doors and make sure that my family was okay. I would have terrible thoughts.
I mean, I think that's a completely fair, feeling of what you would do. But I also know, as somebody who's practiced for quite some time, that trauma responses vary quite significantly. Some people react in the exact way that we would, or that we would expect, maybe a reasonable person to. Some people don't act that way at all. You think, in a situation where you expect someone to be hysterical, they can be really serious and calm and almost seem to have no emotion. So again, it's one of these things in this case that I think is all. It's easy for all of us to kind of look from a bird's eye view in hindsight and say, that seems weird. And so does it fit, the theory that we want? But, is it unusual for some? Yes. Is it unusual for others? I do think the explanation that Jen McCabe gave, she essentially said John was dead, dying on the ground. I was calling 911. I froze. And, it's an interesting, kind of goes against the idea that Jen McCabe was running the show. She really pointed at Kerry Roberts, and Kerry Roberts said, call 911, get the blankets, and sort of like pushed her in charge. So, I don't know that, looking at it and saying that this is the wrong way to respond to a trauma.
And what's interesting is usually, in case we cover Court TV, we're talking about the reaction of the defendant. Here we're talking about the reaction of witnesses. Thank you so much. Let's have our next.
Can I say one more thing?
No, we don't have time. One question. No soup for you. Here we go.
Hi, Benny.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Julie from Holyoke, Massachusetts,
All right.
which is 90 miles away.
Okay, thank you for traveling 90 miles to be here.
This is my third time here.
Okay.
So I suppose my question is for Kathy, being in the area and knowing that another part of the state out past Worcester does not receive the Boston channels and the Boston news, and there was very little coverage in the western part of the state. Why wasn't a change of venue requested?
Interesting.
A question that a lot of people ask, and it's certainly a reasonable question. Sometimes what can happen, you can either change the venue completely, which means that all of the witnesses, the prosecutor, the defense, go out to, you know, say York County, you know, Hampden County, someplace that hasn't heard quite as much about it. Or you could do what happened in the Michael Chesna case here, which is they bust the jurors in from outside. So they bust them in from Worcester County every day. Generally, it's one of the parties who asks the court to do that. In this case, you know, you would think, a lot of people said for the defense, you know, why would it?
Nobody requested it, right?
No, nobody requested it.
If no
and
one
I don't
requested
think
it, it doesn't
anybody wants
happen.
it. I don't
Someone's
think
got to
anybody wants
ask.
it.
Someone's got to ask. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, what's your name?
Hello, Stacy from Dorchester.
All right.
Got another question. My question to the panel is, Karen Reed, so at about 1:30, she was calling John and she was, you know, saying and leaving all these messages. She was very amped, very hyped, and, you know, just very emotional. And then at 4:30, she was very emotional in trying to wake up her niece. My question is, what was she doing during that time between 1:30-ish, 2, and then 4:30? Did anybody get her phone and do a Cellbrite search to see what she possibly could have been doing? I mean, I just feel like her energy was consistent throughout that whole time. And so it just made me wonder if she had any sleep, or
What
to
do we
me
know?
it sounds like consciousness of guilt.
There's been speculation about that, and all the phone calls, 52 phone calls from when she dropped him off, and then the final phone call. Her blood alcohol level was very high at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I've heard, we've discussed speculation that she could have been up drinking all night, maybe fell asleep for a little while, but it's also very possible that Karen Reed actually thought someone had witnessed what happened. So, there were people in the house. Maybe she thought Jen McKay was going to call. Maybe she thought the police were going to come over. Maybe she thought something was going to happen. But that is a good question. But those voicemails, the impact in the jury when they played them, how explosive she was, is very powerful.
All right, we got time for one more, I believe. We'll try to get to 2.
Hi, my name's Shannon. What do you make of all the butt dials?
Give me the 20-second version, and then we'll get the next person up here.
People are drinking. There's a large group of people. I know a lot of people make a big deal about the butt dials, but things like that can happen without there being something nefarious. People seem stuck on the phones. Somebody upgraded a phone. Some of these things can happen. It doesn't mean it had anything connected.
It's not just a butt dial. It's a double butt dial, right? Okay, final question.
Hi, I'm Anna from Dartmouth, and I just want to know, do you think it's possible we will see Karen Reed take the stand in her defense?
Matt!
Yes.
10 seconds.
And here's why. Because this trial, we are seeing her own statements being presented in court. So maybe she'll take the stand this time. But again, that's only up to the defendant.
Great job,
No
Catherine Loftus, Matt Johnson, Cody Thomas. I almost messed that up, right? John DePietro, and our great live studio audience. Thank you for watching. We'll continue digging for answers as the investigation continues. Great job, everybody.